Our recording, I know Mr. Turk was trying to get it, was originally going to try and get on, but. All right, here we go. I will call the Richland County Executive Finance Standing Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Carol. Here. Renish. Manny.
Here.
Gill.
Here.
Glassburner.
Here.
Turk. Frank.
Yes.
Williamson.
Here.
Hui.
Here.
You have 7 of that.
We are verified of open meeting law compliance.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Probably was.
Agenda, the latest agenda should be a 22 point. Latest, looking for approval of the agenda, but we will have some amendments if you're okay with that. I don't know if you want to write these down because we've got some changes. We're gonna move 7 to 14. This is coming from my help from Mr. Wendell. Move 12 and 15 to number 9. Move number 11 to 19. Add a S to employees in number 16.
Bingo.
7 to 14, 12 and 15 to number 9, 11 to 19, and add an S to number 16 on employees. So that, if not, somebody will help us.
Go for it.
Motion by Mr. Frank, seconded by Mr. Manning. All those in favor of approving the agenda with the amendments signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And now we got it. There's Mr. Burke. All right, welcome, Dave.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to minutes, number 5, from June 25th and July 9th. 2 sets of minutes. Anybody have any issues with either set? Nothing from anybody. I will approve them as presented. Public comment, number 6, public comment. Anybody? There we go.
Would it be possible to defer public comment until after the administrator gives her report, please? I'd rather not speak out of turn.
When will you give me a report next?
Yeah.
Sure. That work for you?
We moved your report.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 went to,
I'm patient, so that's,
yeah, we can move it till after the administrator's report. All right,
thank you, Mr. Chair.
you're welcome. Yes, we'll start with numbers. What do we do? 7 to 14, on to number 8. Number 8 is discussion, update on the county comprehensive planning process and discussion of county data for inclusion in the plan. That is Troy.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Everybody know where we're at? Go ahead, Troy.
Yeah, thank you for your time on your agenda, which is the point that you got. I'm Trim Hagan, I'm the Executive Director of Southwestern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission, working to update your comprehensive plan between now and the end of the year. With a couple of my colleagues, Jake Nelson is our research analyst, our data guru, Jacqueline Ascendo is our GIS coordinator, and Dan Houck is actually going to be the project lead. So he's going to talk here mostly, but this is the primary committee which we'll be working with through the approval process. So we wanted to take a few minutes, and you have, I believe, in your packet that you saw a couple months back, the scope of work, the comprehensive plan. It's designed to meet statute and all the things it must do, but highly focused on a couple of aspects that come about during the scoping process. A lot of what we'll do is summary of existing plans. You have out direct plans, you have farmland preservation plans, you have land and water plans. We don't need to recreate the wheel, and we don't get paid by the page. So we're going to really summarize at high level that stuff and incorporate it with the community engagement. Dan is going to speak about briefly, and Jason and Jacqueline on the data. The element that's in here as well that we can support in any way necessary is economic development. I think when we put the scope of work together some time back, the city and the county are still in partnership. So if there's a desire to kind of explore economic development or the county's role in that, to have some conversations. We will be speaking with cities, villages, and townships about economic development to some degree, which brings me really to the bulk of the scope of work is to help the county think about its relationships with cities, villages, and townships. How can we figure out the workforce shortage and the cost saving opportunities that might exist through some conversation. On our part, we'll be educating them to some degree on the demographics and economics we face, and the townships may be less familiar. But at the high level, you'll see there's really four big tasks: the summary of plans, the data analysis, community engagement, just the plan writing. So I'd like maybe Dan to give them a high level overview of the public engagement so that they're aware of this.
Yeah, thanks, Troy. So yeah, one of the key components of this plan will be community engagement, and that will be taking form of engaging with each of the local units of government in the county. So we've got a series of meetings planned and got a schedule included in your packet, a meeting with Richland Center and Richland County, a meeting with all of the villages in the county, and then 2 meetings with the Richland Towns Association. And so those meetings will focus on intergovernmental cooperation, economic development, and importantly with the townships, land use and thinking about future land use. Now, we're also attending the Richland Towns Association quarterly meeting the end of the month here on the 28th. And so this is an exciting opportunity to get everyone involved in this process, and to get all especially the townships who haven't thought about their comprehensive plans in almost 20 years, getting them together. We've also been engaging with the Richland Resiliency Group, especially with their water quality and land use groups. One of the documents that I've included in your packet is the public participation plan, which we have finalized. And we're looking to have that adopted by county board in September. So I'm going to be putting a few agenda items on this committee's agenda for next month, kind of formally establishing itself as the planning commission for purposes of reviewing and approving this plan, recommending approval for the plan, I should say, and that would go into effect once it gets to county board. And then also recommending the public participation plan for approval by the county board. And so, yeah, just there is the comprehensive plan timeline, looking for plan adoption by the end of the calendar year here. So that's kind of the big picture as far as engagement goes. I'm going to turn to data.
Yeah, so just at the top of the page there, I think I laid out a few of the recommended data we might be including in the plan. This is just recommendations as we go through the public engagement more. These are subject to change as we go through and hear more feedback of what we think is really important for our plan. And then if you want to go down to the green highlighted section, we really, for this plan, we're doing like to streamline the data a lot more with more focus on the goals, objectives, and policy recommendations. So we went through and we highlighted what we thought was most important from the previous plan that we really want to make sure is included in the new plan.
This document here is the one that Jacob's referencing. And correct me, Supervisor Glassbrain, when we scoped this, and I'm going to interject briefly, one of the strong aspects of the old plan was the data. In those days, we took a kitchen sink approach. Not every data point in there is actionable. So what we're proposing through that highlight there and the other document is to just really update the data we think the county might find most actionable. We'll really look for your input on as well. Is there something out there you'd like to see or have?
Thank you for that context, Troy. And then, so I've also handed out a data packet, giving you a brief summary of some of the data that look like the plan. And there's a lot more that we might be including in the future. So, with that, I think I'll hand it over to Jacqueline to talk about maps.
Troy's statement about what data on maps are actionable will be also transferred to the maps. We will not be remaking all the maps in the old plans. We'll just be doing the ones that are more applicable. We're also planning to include an ATV/UTV route map, as well as from the meetings that we'll have existing and future land use maps from each of the townships, which would be made into the Richland County map total.
The map that is probably most important from a policy standpoint will be the future land use plan. So according to statute, any land use regulation, i.e. zoning, undertaken by the county must be consistent with this plan. So there's two ways to look at that. One is if you have a stated goal, you can't go outright against that. We don't generally see that to be an issue. But the future land use plan does look across the county at zoned townships, 12 of your 16, on a parcel by parcel basis. With counties that have farmland preservation, such as yours, farmland preservation most often trumps some of the future land use. And I think of the 12 of the 16 counties, probably 90% is in farmland preservation. But that is one of the detailed tasks we'll be working on with the townships. It's plotting out maps of the township and saying, okay, if and when you're going to grow, what does that look like? And that map will be compiled into a county map. And then that's part of the public hearing process, the public comment.
So as Troy stated, I'll be the project lead on this comprehensive plan update. So if anybody would like my business card, I'd be happy to get in contact with you.
You just hand that.
Yeah.
So what we would love to hear is the data you think would be actionable, the valuable data and maps for the county. We know that you use MSA, so if there's a map that we can build in this process that you want transferred onto your platform, we're happy to work with them. I know some of that stuff is interactive, so Jacqueline's been in touch with them already. So we have a little wiggle room if there's kind of a need or new map that you want on your platform, we'll have to work with them to put that up. So data maps, do you think would be valuable? And then as Dan said, he'll work through Administrator Pesh or Kalish to get agenda items in September. One, and these are statutory. One is you adopt the public participation plan, which simply summarizes the outreach we talked about. The other is identify this committee as the plan commission. You don't have to. Sometimes I've seen it being the zoning committee. Generally, this is probably the more actionable committee we'll do. What are the board wants? So those would be the two action items on your September agenda. And then somewhere around November, December, Dan will be in touch about the 30-day public comment period. Some of those public hearings. The other thing I guess I'd look for is what would you like to see in between now? We can summarize notes and minutes from county and township from our public outreach and just provide them for distribution. If you want to stay kind of abreast of the information. So we give you a memo format so you can read along. We don't necessarily need to be here to present or share, but if you'd like that, we can put together 1 to 2 page memo for distribution in these committee packets. That'd be helpful. Definitely.
And I do plan on attending all of those meetings as well. So I will be able to, distribute the minutes and then also provide a brief summary and answer any questions that you may have. Because I will be in attendance.
We'd love to have county supervisors that
Yeah.
cover these areas. Certainly welcome. So, yes.
And those dates, they're.
Yeah, I think we're finalizing the venues, but those are the dates.
Okay, so you got.
There's one date that somehow this is an old version I've got there. So actually, the first date that says August 21st, it's actually the 23rd. So that's the Richland Center, Richland County meeting. So,
And you said you don't have a place yet for that?
Well, we must for that.
yeah, each of them will be in this room.
Oh, okay.
All 4 of those meetings will be here.
And I can forward, if it's fine, I can forward out those
The
meeting
time,
invites
yep,
to
Yep.
this committee or
Correct.
the entire board
Correct.
actually.
Yep.
Or depending on the wishes of the committee, if you want me to send them out to the entire board, I can do that.
That's a good idea. So we can.
Okay.
Is there still, because this is online somewhere, right, the old plan? Because there are people that I don't know that even know what it is, so I don't know if we could provide a link to for example, other county board members that have no idea what new members that don't know what we're doing.
Sure.
I know that it's somewhere.
Yeah,
Obviously,
that was the question that's gonna
document.
for Troy was, is there something new that we're gonna add, you're gonna add from our old plan?
Well, we're gonna get rid of a lot of the old stuff.
Okay.
Now, a lot of it's dated and it's a lot of it. We really wanna, focus on the intergovernmental coordination piece. Because Cooper does planning for land conservation and you have these different departments. We've wrapped up a series of housing studies we shared at your last county board meeting. We don't need to spend time where we already have some stuff in place. For my work across 5 counties and 40-some communities, there's profound opportunity in working across these interjurisdictional lines. And that's really where we'd like to spend some time. And that's how we structured these, right? So Richland County, Richland Center, that's a specific meeting, makes sense. They're located here, but big animal in the county. But all the other villages matter as well. I want to, since she's here, pick on Jean Nix, has been amazing, helping us coordinate all the town meetings. She's phenomenal. So Boaz, Kaz, Viola, Lone Rock will have meetings with the county and all the townships, just to kind of break up the level of effort. That's really our big focus what we see across the counties. And we've not really spent enough time there, I don't think, to really explore what that kind of happens organically, right? Lone Rock can't hire law enforcement, so Sheriff Porter gets involved in the contracts out. You know, it kind of happens organically. Nothing gets into stuff to be valuable.
My only other comment would be, how much data is in there? Because I don't remember the old one that well, but Mark's on the school board referendum today. How much stuff in there that those of us that are on the school boards or that they might be able to pull out and help with anything?
That'll be new data. I don't know that we had a whole lot of school data. That's kind of one of my.
Good. I mean, it's never any battle. It's going through every one of them in this county.
So we watch enrollment trends and also open enrollment trends, which is a whole other strategy involved and set of issues.
What's the difference between enrollment trend and open enrollment trend?
Open enrollment informs overall enrollment. So Jacob has done phenomenal work looking across 60-some school districts. There are some communities that grow through natural population growth, some districts that only grow through open enrollment.
Students can go from.
Yeah. Yep. And at the school district level, there's a lot of strategy there. Is it a cultural issue? Is it a perception issue? You know, why do kids help sort that out? But yes, sir, we'll have that in there.
That'll be good. Go ahead.
So just to clarify then, I think what you're saying is for the next meeting, because you mentioned to look and see if there were other maps that we wanted, but also data, so that document that has the table of contents that has highlighted, that's what you're currently looking at, but if we had something we thought that you should pull out from there,
Yes,
is
so it
that
is.
correct?
Yes, ma'am. It's the green highlight is what we're
Right.
proposing. There's
This is the
things,
old table,
yes.
by the way.
And there are things that are not in here, and that orange. The stuff that is not in here that we want to include is on the top of this.
Okay.
Yep. That's correct, right?
Yes.
So for instance, the ATV, there's probably, school enrollment doesn't show up, but that'll absolutely be on here. We've got better data, Department of Revenue, house sale data is a lot better than census data, right? So via data, we won't drown you in the data geek stuff, but we're looking to not only provide better data, but higher quality.
Supervisor Carroll for.
Ask you to consider adding one more item, the pare down scope items. The current comprehensive plan 1 week point is measuring progress. You've done it. And I know it's not marked here right now, but I wonder if that would be a tough thing to add.
No, measuring performance is huge. I think, yes. Maybe we had that conversation here or we propose something to you. I don't know what recommendations will come out of it. Yeah, the answer is yes. I'd like to see what recommendations come out and figure out how we measure that.
Supervisor Frank, question for you.
Yeah, so I guess I'd be curious if you had the ability to pull data for the vacationers, the people that are coming here that are staying at alternate housing, whether it's Airbnbs or housing groups. I think there's more than that, and I think that's I think it's an item that could be approved for community and for people staying. I'm real curious if that data is available.
We have previously pulled data for things like vacation homes, using taxable data to see who is going to get full-time, part-time. For Airbnb data, what we found, a lot of it's very small in areas like this. There's not a ton of events happening what we've seen in the past. Could be like 1 or 2 in a county. Not a county, sorry, a township. And then the data we get is not very detailed. It's a lot of it's fine, huge paywalls.
We have, there's a site called AirDNA, which does track Airbnbs for VRBOs or whatever.
Whatever the rental process.
Yes, sir. And so we've snapshot some of that in our housing studies. Show.
Be curious, I mean, obviously it's.
Mind if I ask, where do you track that info from? Is it from that cap? Is it from just the Airbnb website?
Yeah, so AirDNA aggregates that data from the various Airbnb and VRBO sites.
Just those sites, not,
Yeah, I mean, if you're leasing something, maybe they would
Yeah.
pick that up. There's two things that Jacob was getting at. There's seasonal and recreational homes. We have really good census data on that. And you have a high proportion of that. Then there's the VRBO Airbnb stuff, which is good and bad. I mean, it's property tax and it's tourism dollars, but nobody lives in an Airbnb to send their kids at Richland, right? So it takes a house off the market for a permanent resident who could be volunteering at the fire department or sending kids. And so we have sort of a love relationship with it. I say it all the time, but I think from a community standpoint, it's,
The pros and cons.
yeah, we'll certainly put the data in that we have.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what, yeah, just to see what those numbers are, if people are coming in that way and staying that way. I don't know. Tax data from that, because that would all be room taxed back to the agencies. Okay.
Supervisor Gill has a question, and I think we better keep moving.
Okay, so we got two questions. Can we track data hits on points of interest in Richland County? I've heard people pitch in numbers and say, here's where people are looking to go or find out or whatever. Is that something that you guys have access to or?
Through our colleagues, there's a software called Placer AI, which tracks cell phone data, which you can buy. We don't buy that software, but Mississippi River Regional Planning and Lacrosse does. And we've talked to them about sharing some of that data. So we'd like to find a good way to pilot it. That'd be interesting to see because it'll track who's coming.
And then secondly, how do we publicize these meetings? The ones that are coming up, all these townships and whatever. How do we let people know that they're invited?
Yeah.
So we had discussed that these meetings are for officials of the villages and towns, in addition to Richland Center, Richland County.
They're public meetings. We have, prior to now, done heavy public engagement, comp planning, Bullet, and Lone Rock, and Richland Center. And so because we want these to be real tactical meetings about intergovernmental coordination, it wasn't envisioned as broad public, which,
Public invites.
correct me, I mean, I think we talked a little bit about that, scoping. So they're absolutely open daily. But we want to get into the weeds as opposed to kind of having a general conversation over the kids. Yes.
Good, good. Any further questions? Oh, Mr. Renner, welcome. Good to see you come in. All right, if not, we're gonna move to number 9, which also includes 12 and 15, starting with number 9. Resolution recognizing the retirement of Health and Human Services employees. Sorry. What? That's what you had wrote on mine, 12 and 15 to 9.
Yeah.
So we're moving.
So we just did what was.
We just did
8.
8. You're gonna do 9, 12, and 15?
Just 12 and 15.
All right, okay, so 12 and 15. Skip number 9. 12 and 15, down to discussion and possible action leasing of a new vehicle for the ambulance service. Number 12 is where we're at.
I the least just the right to be on. I can try to stay back in. So sorry, but.
So that's, sorry for the delay on the lease information in the back end. We initially had a prior lease option for the vehicle, but we've been made aware of the possible substantial donation towards the vehicle. So this lease is going to reflect just the cost of the vehicle, not all of the equipment it requires. If I've learned anything the last 4.5 hours is how important this vehicle is going to be to invest in emergency management. So as it stands right now, so the vehicle we have for emergency management is 2004 F-250. It was purchased in 2003 via a anti-terrorism grant at the time. We're supposed to address that vehicle in public safety last Friday, but unfortunately I had to leave the meeting a little bit early. But that vehicle has met its end of life and is no longer safe in use. For EMS, we have not purchased a new administrative vehicle for EMS slash fly car, intercept vehicle, whatever phraseology you want to use for that, chief's vehicle. We have not purchased a new one of those. I can't find records of us ever purchasing a new one of those. Traditionally, we have used surplus vehicles from the sheriff's office. The two surplus vehicles ago that we got, one was a 2015 Ford Explorer. Very high mileage vehicle. It was valued at about $2,000. It was going to cost about $3,000 to make it a usable, safe emergency vehicle. It certainly did not meet the full needs of a dual purpose vehicle. So that didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Right now, I've got a 2016 Chevy Caprice from the sheriff's office, which I'm very grateful for because I had nothing there for a few days. That's got 167,000 miles on it. We've already put $1,500 into it. Bill kept going on there, anticipating brakes, rotors, and probably some brake lines and movings coming soon because the rims are rusted all the way through. So my proposal is for a shared leased vehicle. We're trying to eliminate short-term borrowing, and we don't have quite enough capital up front just to put on this thing and get it done. So what this would be is a 2024 Chevrolet 1500 pickup truck. This should be a shared vehicle between EMS and emergency management. And the hope is to share the cost between both Fund 10 for emergency management as well as Fund 51 for EMS. So a lease payment would be split square down the middle between the two agencies. I do believe, and I can't say 100%, but I'm about 90% certain that we'll be anticipating a $20,000 to $30,000 donation for the full upfit for all the emergency vehicle equipment, the lights, the radios, bed, the cap for the bed, the slide out trays. We carry a lot of the emergency management equipment, which again, I've realized the importance of being able to have on board. We were just dealing with a situation where we needed some items to prevent flowage of some liquids, and we were having to call back to the station and have other people grab it, bring it there. It'd be a lot nicer to have those things on hand. Again, I did not, because we were dealing with all this, I did not get the updated lease for the $50,000 total until I was just kind of walking in here. I can share you guys with the numbers. I understand it's not your packet.
I did upload what he sent me. If you look at your packet, it's a JPEG file or something, so it should be in there. Underneath item 12, it's going to say GM Financial Richland JPEG. So you should see it in your committee packet folder. It's not going to show up on the screen, but it should be there.
So the initial lease proposal we got was for $70,000, which would have included about a $20,000 update for the vehicle, which would have gotten about 80% of the stuff that, there's needs and wants, of course. But I wanted this thing to last us about 10 years and start a 10-year replacement plan with these. So we have a safe and reliable emergency vehicle for EMS and emergency management. But with the anticipated donation, the lease is for $51,000. It is a lease term of 5 years. We all know that interest rates right now are not amazing. I fully embrace that. But over the 5 years, our monthly lease payment for the 5 years will be $1,013.22. So it'd make a lease payment about $507 from EMS 151 and emergency management each month. I've also included our budgets for next year, shared people costs for maintenance, for fuel costs, all that other ancillary stuff. I kind of split right down the middle between Fund 51 and Fund 10. Again, try to do as much as we can with as little as possible. And I think instead of replacing two vehicles, let's try and combine two into one and improve that through. Again, I've requested some leasing information with a few different dealerships, a few different vehicle manufacturers. The only one I got back was from for the Chevrolet. Ford was not able to get us back with a lease. Not sure why, but got nothing back from them. I started that conversation 2 months ago. So the only one I have back is from GM. Were you guys able to get that in your packet?
As opposed to so you may have to refresh your folder. It's not working. Okay. And I don't know if maybe because it's a PNG file, maybe it's likely. I tried.
That's fine, I think we're trying. So this is, so this is a lease at what, about $1,100 a month,
Yeah, $1,000, correct.
5 years.
Yep. At the end, I'm sorry, at the end of that 5 years, we can then purchase the vehicle for $1.
Okay, so we're basically paying it off.
Correct.
That was my, is there a mileage limitation?
There is no mileage limitations because this is under the government leasing.
Any further questions for Mike? I know we don't have the information. Mike, is this something that board administrator passed that we need to do today?
Hope was to do it today. I understand given the circumstances, it might not necessarily be today, but it's a,
We got the basic, Mr. Cooley.
Not a question, doesn't this normally run through the JAC? Wouldn't it come through that because them townships and everything are involved in that?
so the Joint Ambulance Committee was apprised of this plan. And we got joint approval from the Joint Ambulance Committee to bring this forth to the executive finance session.
Okay.
Brian?
In the sense that we considered a lease option, I don't know that we considered this specific lease option.
That's correct.
And the concept was approved to bring it to you folks to see if you would be willing to contribute towards the expense. So we asked him to bring it here, and in the interim, then there's this more, I'll say, more advantageous proposal than the one that we had sort of looked at. And so if the concept is one, the concept of splitting costs between departments is viable, then I think that that would be something that the JAC might very well approve. Recommend be
Mr. Frank.
First of all, does your budget numbers look like they're covered for the year? And number two, what's the steps? Is county board approval because it's a contract for 5 years?
Well, so this is part of the discussion this evening, the interaction that goes on between the JAC, county board. The waters have been muddied over the years and we need direction on how the functionality should continue. Because the original intent appears to be somewhat different from the way it's been functioning. So thus the question has been raised and we need guidance as far as that goes. So that is why this item probably should have waited till later on, but at any rate, it's
Well,
here.
the main point of this discussion is that, number one, leasing a vehicle is setting a new way of doing things in the county, so that's a big piece of the puzzle.
Yep.
Number two is the county's agreement to share the cost with 151 from the emergency management side to do this. And from your budgetary question, do I have a line item that says I can afford this? No, but when I look at my vehicle maintenance costs for the previous Ford Explorer, the current Caprice, it's well funded.
And that's the,
It does make sense.
it's funded, just a different line item, different.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Repairs versus
So I guess the action we're pursuing is that we would support to have the discussion that Fund 10 would contribute half to a shared vehicle instead of emergency management having to run the mess up.
And that's having their own.
And then at the meeting of the JAC that we're going to have later this month, armed with the knowledge that this concept, leasing, is a concept that might very well be approved, that cost sharing is an idea that might very well be approved, that we would present that to the JAC and bring it all through as a plan. And the budget can be amended to show where that, that we're going to able to afford that.
It's been a long day, this is all a lot better put together before today.
Well, that's fine. We
That's the
got,
concept.
it sounds like we're just gonna send it back. I mean, I don't know if we need to take action on that, discussion and possible action, leasing a new vehicle. I would say we send it back, go through the proper channels and bring it back. Mr. Manning.
Did you say you're expecting a sizable donation for this?
Yes.
What would happen if we don't get it as far as budget?
So I would not move forward with the leasing plan if that donation were not to come in. I'll have a financial that donation by the minutes.
So we really don't need to be taking it.
Right, that's why we're gonna send it back. By then you'll have it.
But this discussion needed to happen.
No.
Because we needed
Yep.
to know if this was something that the committee would support in order to, bring it full circle. Because there was no point in having the discussion at the committee level. The board wasn't gonna support this type of action.
Perfect.
I think the board's only part is about the emergency management side. I mean, the JFC is the other. That's not our. So I guess what Ryan's looking for is if we're gonna support it.
Right.
So that's the question to us. Yep. And I don't have a problem supporting it. I mean, it just makes sure that everybody's I mean, like you said, this is different. That JAC was created. I was on the first part of that when I was on the township, so.
I didn't want to dot all the i's, cross all the t's, get everything finalized, pretty donations all squared up if it wasn't going to get past like finance or public safety committee, but just knowing that there's support within the committee for the county board at the time, when that time comes, is.
I think in general consensus, we're all in favor of, especially if that donation comes through. Mr. Turk, you staying awake?
Yeah, I'm here.
Any thoughts, comments?
I think the concept sounds good. Let's see if we can make it happen.
Perfect. Okay. Back that way. 15, discussion, original intent of the, we already covered that? No, you ready to go into that? Original number 15? Candace? Original intent of the Joint Ambulance Committee and current functionality of committee.
Brian, you want to join us for this part of the discussion?
Sure. Should I?
Yeah, you bet, please.
And Mike probably as well, you want to join us here at the.
Sure.
So we had something brought to light, inadvertently, really. Some questions about the hiring process when Mike was hired. And thankfully, when the questions were brought, like Attorney Wendell happened to be in the office, which was wonderful. We had a member of the public that was inquiring on the process, how it happened, why it happened, a number of other things. And so I was able to answer questions. Attorney Wendell was able to answer questions, offer statutory reference, et cetera, et cetera. It was then brought up at the committee level. Again, how was the process done? Why does the authority lie with the county to hire the emergency manager? When did that change? And all of this happened with the change to the county administrator form of government. The committee is no longer in control of the hiring practice. There was committee involvement in the hiring practice. There were 2 members of the committee that sat in on the interview panel, all of these things. But that did prompt me to say, okay, let's go back and look at how did this committee start? Was this the original intent of the committee? Are we missing something? Did something get lost in translation somewhere? Are we not doing something that was originally intended at the start of this committee? So Kurt Kalish and I pulled out old resolution books and went digging and looked for any notes, anything we could find about when the JAC was created. And we couldn't find a whole lot of notes or anything, but what we did find was this resolution, which was resolution 14149 in 2015. And it talks about that, as you can read, but I'll read it. The county ambulance service currently provides ambulance service to 13 towns, 2 villages in the city of Richland Center. And much study and many meetings have taken place with these municipal units as to how the county will provide ambulance service in the future. And whereas the Rules and Resolutions Committee is now presenting a resolution to the county board, providing for significant interim changes in the way that the county will provide 911 advanced emergency medical technician level service for 2015, with the anticipation that permanent changes will be accomplished by the end of 2015. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that there is created a 19-member joint ambulance committee whose members shall consist of the following. And then it outlines who should be on the committee. Be it further resolved that the county board shall approve the appointment of all members to the Joint Ambulance Committee after receiving nominations from each participating municipal unit, and members of the committee shall be paid the same mileage and per diem paid to county board supervisors for attendance at committee meetings. And so that is the piece that kind of we went, whoa, we're not doing that. The rest of it, I think, is still functioning very much the same. But we have not historically been having the county board approve all of the members to the JAC. Now, I don't know when that fell off. I have no idea when that stopped happening. But there was also, and Brian and Michael, maybe the two of you could explain a little bit more of what the concern was. But there is a feeling amongst the membership, and correct me if I'm misspeaking here, that those that are paying their membership fee feel as though they should have more of a say in day-to-day operations because they feel as though they are funding the ambulance service. And so I do think that there is maybe a misunderstanding of the level at which those contributions actually fund the operations of the service and how much county contribution actually is made, because it's not reflected in the budget per se, but the support that is given at the county level in, payroll and all of the ancillary services that are not actually spelled out in paper and a check isn't written. There are a substantial amount of those services that are kind of given in support of the ambulance service. And so when a decision was made to make it a county committee, it then falls under, in my understanding and in discussing with Attorney Wendell, it falls under the rules then as such of a county board committee and of the county board. And so, in light of these discussions, I think it's really important then to determine what is the intent of the board, what was the intent of the board at this time, and what do you want the intent to be going forward? Because there are two options here. It remains a county committee and follows the rules, regulations, and such as set forth, as any other county committee would. Or, there's a standalone option, but I don't see how that would function or how it would be financially viable. And so we need clarity for Brian, we need clarity for Mike, we need clarity for the membership of that committee on what the board's wishes really are, and for all of us who are trying to navigate this, this intent. So that is why it is here before you. So Brian, what do you have to add?
I'll just say the issue or the concern was brought up in connection with the hiring of the emergency services director. And the concern was of members of the JAC that their involvement was not greater than what was had. I served on the hiring committee, Mr. Severson did. So there were representatives there. There would have been one more had the board member, county board member that was on the hiring committee, she went off board. So her involvement was little. But there would have been three had that not occurred. And I think the folks that were on the JAC that were concerned or are concerned about the level of involvement was that this Mike was hired without being brought before the JAC and introduced and the JAC vote in some fashion or have some input into that hiring process, which you could say they did have input, but then the question would be, was that sufficient? Some folks, and the answer was, I guess not. But That's the first time that a director's been ever been hired by the county for the ambulance service.
Since
And
your
so-
inception.
Since the beginning.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to fall back on and say, well, gee, we did this before like this. It's okay. We did it the way that it seemed to need to be done, and modifications were made by administration to allow to have input from members of the JAC.
What does the, not to get, to flip it, what does the JAC do? What are the decisions they make? What's the authority they have in the decisions they make? Are they setting prices for the ambulance? Are they setting rates that the townships have to pay? What are they?
We do those things, yes.
Supervise the operation of the county ambulance service according.
We meet regularly and hear all manner of issues and things involving the operation of that. Before the county hired administrator, we were involved in hiring all levels of employees within that organization.
So what's the document that you?
This is that right there.
Oh, up there.
So can I,
Supervisor Glassberg.
if we're saying, like, if we're considering this a county board, how did you put that?
Subcommittee of the county board.
Then I would say it would function similarly to how the other committees are functioning, which I can use the committee I'm on as an example. Since having an administrator with the HHS board, we were not directly involved in hiring the new HHS director. I was invited to sit in on a final interview. However, even if I had voted no, I don't know that that would have, that it wasn't my decision to make. I was invited to give input, but that was the extent of our committee's involvement in it. So I guess I'm not following why this would be different.
And that's what I explained. It has been explained and Michael has explained that as well. But there are those that seem to feel differently. And you're right, Supervisor Cooey, it does say that here. But remember, when the county administrator form of government was set, a resolution was passed, and I believe it supersedes all prior. And so that is where then, and I know someone tried to say that, well, it says in the board rules, we do this. And I said, well, number one, we've got new board rules, so that no longer applies. But
Supersedes statute.
and that's where Mike pointed out statute. And so again, it was a discussion and trying to educate really on roles and responsibilities.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rennie.
So I think what you're seeing on the JEC is the same thing they saw on the county board 2 years ago when I came on. There's a lot of complaints about older board members about the way things were going. And John Okemer brought that sheet of paper in that explained the duties of the administrator. And so this is the path we've chosen. There's no polite way of saying it. Sounds to me like everything was done the way it was supposed to be done. It's just not the way we used to do it.
May I?
Yes.
I agree. There is some of that. A distinguishing characteristic is the input of money directly from the participating municipalities to the tune of, help me, I'm bad with numbers, 130,000 a year, rough number, So the money coming in from the participating municipalities is a point that is not trivial in terms of, okay, we're helping fund this, shouldn't we have some say? And they do have say. But this hiring process brought this question up in perhaps more starker contrast.
And I think, to that point, and I will not minimize that contribution. And we want the involvement. We want the input. I think that's very, very important because these are the residents that are served by the JAC. But if you look at that budget and how large that budget is. It's well over $1 million. And so there are other things at play. And so, I mean, it's not, again, the decision was made at the time with negotiation with many, many people at the table that were deciding that this was a county-run committee. And so at this point, I think if there are those people that really do not want to be under the rules as written by the county board, then that's another discussion.
And you and I have talked about this on other occasions, and I think you know that I understand that we operate within a rubric of a county. And I do not want to minimize the benefits ancillary that the JAC receives. And I also don't lose sight of the fact that the taxpayers are ultimately paying for this, and the taxpayers benefit by having the JAC rubric method of organization and the ability not to have to duplicate expenses. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that really was why I felt this discussion was important to have, to get guidance, to get input, to have it on the record as far as how you all felt, if you felt that there needed to be changes made, if you were concerned at all in any way, shape, or form with the way that the operations are occurring, if you wanted to see any sort of modification, or if you interpreted this document any differently than what we are interpreting it.
Supervisor Frank.
So are there any other committees, organizations in the county that receive money from townships or other entities that we then don't have any real say in what we do with that money? What I'm trying to say? So that you guys, the ambulance is receiving money from the townships. It's going into a county pot. It's coming to county.
151, I think.
They have a designated fund, it only goes to them.
Okay, so that goes right to them. Do we have any other committee or group in the county where anything like that even resembling happens, other than the fire department, which we don't have any control over because they're under the same type of thing where they receive money from the townships?
Fire department's not tied to the county. Fire department's their own district.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to get at.
Hi, can you explain again, since I'm not familiar with that, how is it then tied to the county? Because you mentioned emergency management is a part of that, which we do fund, correct? But joint.
It's two separate entities.
This is a shared position, so it's part funded by the JAC, it's part funded by emergency management.
Okay.
This is a joint position at this time, so it's half and half. So the
60-40.
JAC pays for part, or 60, yeah, and then part is done by emergency management.
But I think,
What I'm saying is they have their own special fund. Do we contribute? You mentioned that we upfront it, but then it's recovered in costs. Is that
Right.
correct?
That's my understanding. Do they have a budget of money that comes from the county? Other than, so they have emergency management budget. They get money from the county for that, for emergency management.
Right.
Is there any funding that goes to them for the ambulance? At the beginning of the year, they've got to have money to.
No.
Okay, it's all completely, okay.
That's.
Not operational, but there would be capital, correct?
Right.
I mean,
Oh, so
then
we
in
do have
that
capital
context,
expenses.
that is different.
Well, we want to be careful. We did enjoy support from the county board to provide loan proceeds, borrowing proceeds to acquire the facility that we are in now. So thank you.
And it's working.
And it's
And I would say that looking forward and with the planning and some of the potential future changes that may change, depending on what the board's wishes are, and some of the potential, ambulance services are not growing. They are getting smaller. They are getting harder to maintain. County, small towns and villages can't afford often to do this. The push is really for more regional services, and we're kind of ahead of the game in that realm. And so, you hear people often talk about, what's mandated and what's not mandated in all of those arguments. This is a service that, sure, it's not mandated, but if we don't have this, people die. So I would argue it is an essential service. It is something that has to be provided. And I don't know that we can just say, oh, well, you know, maybe they're not bringing in enough revenue to sustain, but the county doesn't really need to help. I mean, that's the way I look at this service. And so that's another reason why I do think that at the end of the day, at some point, yes, it may fall on the county to make a decision that we do need to spend some taxpayer dollars to sustain the service. Again, not my decision, that's the board decision. But that decision may have to come at some point.
Mr. Turk?
Yes, if you look at that original resolution that we're referring to, it talked about organizing the JAC as an interim until a more permanent arrangement could be established. Well, 9 years later, we're still interim. We haven't established a permanent solution. I know there was talk at the time about moving to an ambulance district or something like that. It didn't happen. So it appears that our current model is one that we're going to be into for some time. And as Candace was saying, this is not something we're going to stop doing. This is an incredibly important endeavor to keep going. So I would think that we need to look at the relationship between JAC and the county and figure out what it's going to look like now and moving forward. We don't seem to have real clear guidance on, you know, what that relationship was supposed to look like, what decision-making processes were going to be from the historical stuff we have. So I think we need to sit down and we need to come up with, okay, this is what we agree on now and moving forward.
Thank you, Dave. Very good. Mrs. Glassbrenner.
To clarify then, what specifically are we trying to address tonight? Just the hiring process, or are we looking at the entire, or nothing?
Go ahead.
Well, number one, we have not been approving all of the appointments to that committee. So if we are going to continue on, we should probably follow our own resolution and say that we are going to approve the appointments to the committee.
Who has been?
Well, it has in the past, at the slate, when we reconstitute every 2 years and following how you guys do. We present our list, and that list historically, best of my knowledge, went to the board. Board said yes. That allowed our members to be eligible for per diem and for the county to collect the information they needed to pay that. And then we were officially constituted as a committee, and these are our members. So when we got a new member here, well, I guess technically she'll become a member this month, noticed that a new one was coming in to replace an existing person. Then I said, you need to notify the county administration, and that will need to be something that's approved. And so
here we are.
We haven't been doing this.
On there, do you have a chair and all those
we
things?
do have a chair. My name's Brian McGraw, and I'm the chair right now. I did,
Sorry that I haven't officially met you.
since 2018. And then I am, the chair is reappointed or revoted on every 2 years in the same sort of timeframe that you guys reconstitute your groups.
And Brian and I have had a very great working relationship. We've clarified a lot of roles and responsibilities. We've worked very closely together. So this was a great conversation for us to have along with Mike and Mike. And again, just wanting to clarify and wanting to understand intention.
It sounds like it should be an official county committee.
So
Treated as such.
Under something and treated as such, yeah.
Yep. And I do think, again, I am not advocating at all that we do not have input from the membership. I think the input that the membership provides is invaluable. I think it needs to occur. And we did talk about ensuring, because, you know, everything that I was seeing throughout this process, the hiring process, there were updates on every agenda. What we realized were that the updates weren't necessarily happening. And I don't attend every one of those meetings. I was not aware that those updates weren't happening. So when and if we run across that issue again, we just have to make sure that there is somebody there doing those updates in a better fashion. And that's something that Brian and I agreed on, and that's something that we can do, hopefully, though.
Fair enough.
Hopefully, we don't have to do it anytime soon.
Structure, would they be under public safety? Do they report?
Right now, they just report to this committee because they make operational decisions. And if they need money, anything above a certain amount, they really just need to come here to get approval to spend the money. They don't really have oversight on their operational decisions. Now, I know, Mr. Jessen did say that he would like it if they could report through the public safety committee. They felt like that might be a better fit, and Ryan, and I don't necessarily disagree. Emergency management reports that way. And, that is a suggestion that I think we could consider as well.
More to come.
Thank you for the discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I need a break. Otherwise, if I'm correct, we're going to number 10. Mr. Bindle? Yes. With our musical number.
Going to what was number 9.
What was number 9?
This is the resolution that is in the retirement.
Okay. Now we're going to number 9. Resolution recognizing the retirement of health services employee. Chris, is that for you, I understand?
So we have Becky Dahlberg retired at the start of this month. She worked for the county for 39 years. I think the last 19 was with us. Previous to that, it was with child support. So we're just asking that this resolution go to full county board to honor her.
I would so move.
Second.
Motion by Frank, second by Glassbrenner. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Thank you, Trish, for sitting through it. 39 years. Very, very good. 10. Ethics Board. Discussion and possible action, confirmation of Ethics Board. Number 10.
Listening. So this is just a little bit of cleanup. The board may recall that it passed an updated ethics ordinance not too long ago that creates a body known as the Ethics Board. Previously, it was the Rules and Strategic Planning Committee, which I feel like this body is the spiritual successor of, but there was never a new ethics board declared. And so what I have proposed is declaring this body the Ethics Board. Ultimately, however, that is a board decision because it relates to the structure of the board.
Discussion. Marguerite. Anything? I'm okay with that.
Is there language that do we need to change the committee? Because it was previous committee names, does that show up anywhere in the documents we need to change? I think the previous committee was.
No, and it specifically says in the ethics ordinance that there shall be a body known as the Ethics Board. So what this resolution does is just name this body.
Yeah, it's the Ethics Board, so you're gonna change it. Okay, that's why I make sure we work.
Right.
Any other thoughts, Mr. Manning? Mr. Manning moves to approve as presented and changing it to us becoming the Ethics Board. Is that correct? Second by Mr. Gill. Further discussion, Mr. Carroll.
I'm obviously going to go back and read that ethics resolution, but I'm just wondering if the process of things coming to that ethics board, how does that get triggered? Does it? How much are we going to have on our plate?
You are aware of all current matters before the ethics board. This body has already been informed of all matters which may be referred to the ethics board.
And going forward,
same.
They would follow the same process. Some of the matters of which this body has become aware could fall into the realm where it could constitute an ethical violation under this ordinance. Okay. Just because it's already before this body does not necessarily mean that this body can act as the ethics board without a formal declaration. This is the body we want doing this stuff. Verified complaint is the general way that somebody initiates action before the ethics board.
Any other discussion? If not, all those, Mr. Turk, anything?
Nope.
You're good? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. That was 10. We skipped, where are we now?
We should be at what was 13.
Yes. That's what one of them I don't have crossed out yet. 13, possible action, scheduled date for next committee on committees meeting. We do need to set that.
Yes, we have some musical chairs that needs to happen with some of our committees. Someone had a conflict that we have discovered. Another member, the committee was just too much for them. And so they have asked to be removed from our committee. So that actually works very well. So we can just switch a couple of members. Additionally, we need to appoint Supervisor Caro to the Southwest Regional Planning Committee. So all of those things need to be done, but we need to have that discussion in the Committee on Committees. So we need to schedule a meeting.
Mr. Wendell.
I would just also say that we should probably approve the slate of the JAC members.
Oh, and we need to do that since that has not been done properly. So we should do that too.
So any of this need to be done before our next county board meeting. Normally we meet sometime during, after.
Well, next county board meeting is next Tuesday.
Right, but that's soon enough.
Like, are you saying meet right?
Committee on committee.
Oh, just meet right before the next county board meeting? I'm fine with that.
But you have the list of, I don't have it. Nothing.
I've got it on.
I'm on that.
Okay.
That's fine with me.
I'm on it, I won't be here.
Unless there's a reason you wouldn't have a forum.
That's all that, then yes, Bob is also on it.
Bob's on it?
Are you gonna be here, Barb?
Aren't you on that?
Harry? Marty?
We'll have,
Trying to think of who is still
Okay,
here.
so what time then?
we
Six?
start normal
No,
time?
6:30? It's short, right?
Shouldn't be that long.
6:40, should we say?
6:30.
6:30.
Right, 6:30.
6:30.
I'm not gonna be here. All right.
You can do whatever you.
Show up then, you've already missed it.
So, be on my way to the early.
6:40 will be the committee on committee.
6:30.
All right,
6:30.
Right. All right, now where you at, Mr. Mendel? 13 is done.
Airport amendment.
Yes, 14. 14, so this is discussion and possible action approval of ordinance amendment to remove Iowa County from the Tri-County Airport. Number 14, is something in here?
There's a lot of stuff in there.
Oh my lord, it's way long.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Dave.
It's gonna sound really dumb. I probably already. Like,
They have left, haven't officially done it. It's the first time.
They haven't left yet either. So when I was first appointed corporation counsel, a week or two into it, Clint and I had a conversation. We've got this 3-county airport. We want to remove 1 county. It's going to take some FAA approval. How many months do you think this is going to take? And I laughed. I just laughed for a while. And so we're still working on that today. What this is the new operation ordinance for what will remain the Tri-County Airport, because changing the name of an airport apparently requires altering international treaties. I am not certain that I'm kidding, because the little 3-digit things are actually government. So anyway, we and SOC need to pass identical versions of this ordinance, or as identical as we're going to get, because our initial ordinances were not identical, and then also the names need to be changed. And so that's what this is. It is pretty much the same ordinance that already exists, just takes out Iowa and changes the percentages, payments due and voting.
Yes. Motion to approve that.
Second.
Motion by Rennick, second by Glassbrenner. Further discussion on changing the airport ordinance and adopting the same one that Sauk County is presenting to their people? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, that is taken care of. It'll go, that's excluded, yeah.
Both boards have to pass.
Yeah, if you want to have a week to read it.
It's exactly as dry as a federally mandated ordinance.
Yeah.
That's out to be. Now we're back to number 7.
Back up to number 7, reports by the administrator.
Got everything I needed to say now.
Well, it looks like campus update is one thing.
Okay. So campus update. You'll notice it looks really good out there. They were finally able to get that grass cut. It was finally dry enough. So yesterday, if you looked out there, you had a large tractor with a mower, and then a medium-sized tractor with a mower, and then a normal-sized mower. And they were all in a row mowing together to get it cut down the way that it should be. And they are baling it tomorrow. So, because it was so long, they're gonna just bale it and get it all taken care of, and then try to get over it one more time before the rain comes, because soccer practice is going to be starting soon, and they wanted to make sure that the fields were ready for the kids. They also did get all of the trails back up behind the campus, cleared of all trees, and they got them all mowed, because cross-country practice is starting soon as well, and they wanted to make sure that the kids had all of that ready for them too. So you will see, you know, probably kids running and playing on there and all of that good stuff. So, so that's great. I have reached out to Venture Architects. We are trying to solidify a date for them to come and give their report. So the report is forthcoming. It's just solidifying a date for them to present. So I'm anxiously awaiting that, a response from them on a date. Other than that, I was out at the campus just to do a little walkthrough and check on some things the other day. We were able to, Marilyn Peckham graciously did come and meet us out there so that we could learn how to re-key the fobs that are out there. So she did meet MIS staff, and we were able to boot up the computer that was left there and learn how that worked. So our MIS staff is able to work through rekeying fobs now, which is wonderful. There are still a number of keys floating around out there, we're pretty sure. So the doors do remain chained, some of them for protection, which is not the greatest, but for now it's what we have to do until we make some decisions, because it would be very costly to change all the locks on all of those doors. So that is where we are at with that. So again, until we have more decisions, we can't do much more with that. County treasurer vacancy update. So as of right now, we don't necessarily have a vacancy. Jeffrey did rescind his resignation, not because he is not leaving, but because we have not followed, we haven't made any decisions as of yet. So we do have 2 applicants. We do have a closed session on the agenda for this evening. And so he is willing to stay on. He has been coming in evenings and weekends to do the work that needs to get done and double check what the staff that's currently there is doing, making sure everything, I's are dotted, T's are crossed. And so he will do that as long as it takes until we have someone else in place. We did extend the advertisement as well, but have not had any other interested parties up to this point. So that is where that is at. You will see that a very short press release is going out with more detail to follow. There was a chemical spill earlier in town today. It is under control. It's no longer an active site. They're currently evaluating everything. We don't know much, but DNR was on site. Hazmat team was called in from Richland County. And so it is under control. Nothing else is occurring at this time. They're just evaluating and taking samples, doing what they need to do. So we do have that going on. The budget is where everybody's budgets are in. It's really now just taking a look at everything and evaluating where we are at. As you all know, we're inching close to that 2027 cliff. And even with the shared revenue, things are tight. So we are looking at budget and looking at where we need to just take a little harder look. So we'll be working through that. Revenues are down in a lot of areas, which is unfortunate. And of course, costs are up. So, but again, we're working through that. We'll be having second rounds of meetings with some departments and just asking some more questions. So we have met with every single department once already. Just talk through those initial pieces, and then we'll have second meetings and drill down a little bit more. There's always a million things going on, but did have a chat with Precision today. They were in the building. My office has been leaking. Justin and I's office has been leaking pretty badly when you walk in the door and then right outside the door into the hallway. And we thought that was just because rocks needed to be moved on the roof. Well, that is the piece of the roof that wasn't replaced when the roof was redone. Apparently there is a huge rip in the roof, a big L-shaped tear. So that's not good. And then all of the units on this side of the building that are, they're basically house units, not industrial size units. I don't know how many of them there are. They were all put in 1989. Yeah, they're not going to last much longer. So good news all around on that front. So we'll see what we can do. So
Questions for the administrator?
What type of
don't know yet.
Carol.
So we did the whole thing was expected. I don't know.
This piece didn't get replaced.
Right, but I thought Louie and I and Carol were on that committee, and I thought the engineer said, oh, no, because we asked that question.
Yeah,
You're there. Let's do it all. Oh,
Yeah.
no, it'll be okay.
Nope, that there was apparently a piece of it that they didn't do. And of course, that's the piece now that's acting up. So
So as a follow-up, what else didn't get done that we might as well do now if we've got to go up there?
well, again, we have Venture didn't just look at the campus buildings, remember, they looked at this building. So we're going to have answers, we're going to have data. And I've said this since the day I walked in this door, let's make some data-driven decisions.
Yeah, but we can't let the roof fall because it's leaking.
No, we can't, but Randy has been able to do quite a bit of repair. So that may be something that he can repair for now to get us through until we know what's what. I mean, if we've got a report coming in the next 2 weeks.
I get that, but if it rains for 2 weeks and it ruins everything else, I mean, we gotta kind of react to stuff like.
Yeah,
That's the only thing I'd say. It's not that I want to spend more money, but we gotta
No.
fix the roof.
No, and Randy is not gonna let it just sit. I think he thought it was literally just moving some rock. He thought it was one of those scenarios where something had come a little loose, because apparently that's been known to happen up there. And I think it's something entirely different. And I didn't get a chance to talk to Randy. This was later this afternoon. So I will circle back with him right away tomorrow morning and find out what we can do in the meantime. For sure. Yeah, no, we don't want the roof falling in. We don't want more damage. That's for sure.
We need to budget for
Blue tarp. Okay,
Two.
I'll get on that.
Any other questions for the administrator?
I have one, if I may, sir.
Sure.
The hay that they're gonna bale up out there, where is that going?
Probably gonna go out to the highway shop and they'll use it for along roadside. Yes.
Oh, I have donkeys to feed.
I have no idea what
No.
None.
It may not even keep, if it's grass, depends on what they move it with.
Right, it was.
Yep. All right. Anything else? Where we at now?
Now we are back to 6.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I didn't remember that. Introduce yourself, Jason Pete. Somebody you don't know. I forgot.
I have a degree in math and I'm confused. Evening County Board members, some of you I know, some of you I don't. My name is Brandon Federley and I have the privilege of being the last team campus. And the reason why I'm here is to ask you as a taxpayer, there is a lot of equipment of value needs to be disposed of in one way or another. And I do have a vested interest. I am not here to lobby. I am here to say to the folks of the county, I would like you to think of what's in the best interest of the taxpayers. And how can whatever is there best serve the citizens of this county, whatever fate it may be. That being said, any of the county board members, or the attorney or the administrator want to ask someone who's been there for 18 years and was in charge of every nickel and dime that passed through there, any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have your contact information or?
I
You
have
know
it.
where I live. I do know where you live. I'm just making sure everybody else knows where you too.
Yeah, but I've been holding on to it for when we maybe know something.
Sue.
I think the local resources like this are gonna be huge, huge help. for
Oh,
all
it's
of us.
just
Some
16?
stuff we're not gonna know
Are we to
how to
16?
deal with or how to dispose of possible.
Right.
Yes, now we are to 16.
And
All right?
what'd you find?
Thank you.
And-
You'll look good.
I see.
That's how the process is, you know, that.
All right. Let's take a quick recess. Take a restroom break or drink of water, and then we're gonna go into closed session, which will be only for committee members only. Closed session, members only. And Trish, we do need to. Sorry, Trish.
Are we ready? Thank you, Brandon.